Welcome to Ladders. We're back to talk more fantasy rising stars and the guys you should drop in order to pick them up. I am FTW's Christian Gander. He is a Rhode Island scumbag, Mike Yash Boyajian. Yash, how you feeling about Drake May?
Man, I didn't think I could feel any better about him than I did last week, and yet here we are today. That was an amazing game from him last night, and the entire Patriots team, let's be honest there, except for one Patriot who I don't really want to talk about right now.
This player you don't want to mention, does his name rhyme with Balgandre?
I think you got it.
Yes, not only is he hurting the Patriots, but also hurting your fantasy team because you're a TreVeyon Henderson truther. We're going to get to him, but we're going to talk about the guy who just crushed it for the Carolina Panthers first. That's right. We're starting with Rico Dowdle. Dowdle did rise up the percent owned ranks going into week 5, only about 56% owned though. So he might still be available in your league for a hefty free agent bid. Let's talk about guys on his level and above and whether or not we would drop them in order to pick up Rico Dowdle. Number 1, 66% owned, Nick Chubb, Houston Texans. Yash, Dowdle or Chubb?
All right, this one I'm going to go with Dowdle. It's close because obviously yesterday, even though we got all the coach speak that Woody Marks was taking over that backfield, he didn't. Nick Chubb was the one who punched one in for the touchdown. So there is a little bit of a risk choosing Dowdle over Chubb, but ultimately it seems like both of these guys are going to be in timeshares moving forward. But with the Texans, we don't know who's going to be leading. After this past week, it looks like Dowdle might have overtaken Chuba Hubbard, but they're still going to be splitting time. Either way, I'm going to roll with Dowdle.
Yeah, Nick Chubb looked better this week, but still doesn't quite pass that eye test for me. He's not getting a ton of targets either way. And even though he outcarried Woody Marks early on in that blowout, still not 100% on him. Meanwhile, I got Dowdle going into a revenge game against the Dallas Cowboys in week 6. Chuba might not be 100%. I want Rico Dowdle over Nick Chubb. Next man up, 83% owned. Another guy on your roster. Another one of those frustrating running backs you love, Yash. RJ Harvey, Denver Broncos. Do you want Rico or RJ?
Oh, on here, I'm going to hold on to my boy RJ Harvey. Personally, I just think that his role is still in flux. However, I think when it comes down to sheer talent, I think he's more talented than Dowdle is. I also believe that he has a better situation in Denver than the situation in Carolina with the running game. So, I mean, it's close. They're both in timeshares, and there's no guarantee that Harvey should pull away, but I'm taking the potential with this one. We know what Dowdle is. I'm going to go with Harvey.
I agree with you there. The upside of Harvey, who's great between the tackles, a lot worse outside them. 6+ yards per carry in between that tackle box. Only 3 outside him. Sean Payton is too smart a head coach to let that linger too long. He's got a little bit of an impact in the passing game. And more importantly, he's got an easier matchup, better offensive line, and less daunting run defenses in the AFC West than the Panthers have to face in the NFC South, where you have a rising Falcons defense, where you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Vita Vea. You have the New Orleans Saints, who are apparently capable of anything after this last week. So I want RJ Harvey in this case, even though the floor is much lower compared to Rico Dowdle. Finally, going through your list of underwhelming running backs, New England Patriots, TreVeyon Henderson, the guy with a funky nameplate. Looks like a create a character in Madden when he's on the field.
That was weird.
Real weird, right? It's so tiny. It's weird. Anyway, do you want TreVeyon? Do you want Rico Dowdle?
I mean, I love punishing myself. I can't quit on TreVeyon. Like, I really can't. The talent is just so tantalizing. I cannot let this guy go. Especially after what happened last night, where we saw Antonio Gibson go down with an injury. It might have finally forced Vrabel's hand to just have to use this guy more often. I mean, anything's better than a 3-way split. So I'll take the 2-way split with Henderson over, again, Dowdle's, don't get me wrong, he's a good player, but he's not as talented as TreVeyon Henderson. So I'm staying with Henderson here.
Yeah, no, opportunity abounds in that New England backfield. Henderson doesn't have to worry about Antonio Gibson anymore, done for the season with a torn ACL. Right. Stevenson's fumble issues. And look, I appreciate Mike Vrabel going back to his guy, showing him we have confidence in him. But there's only so much you can take. And this is a guy who's putting the ball on the turf so much. that eventually things are going to have to swing to TreVeyon Henderson. And he's a guy who, he has a passing game value. He should be the go-to for Drake May out of the backfield. And those moments where Drake May is getting flush and just kind of checking it down to avoid the negative plays, something he does really, really well. So that's why I think TreVeyon Henderson, for me at least, is the better play, the higher upside play than Rico Dowdle, even if his floor is a little bit lower.
Carolina played last week as well. They played one of the worst run defenses in the league in Miami. I think, let's all keep this in perspective of who he did this against as well.
Next man up, revitalized quarterback Sam Darnold couldn't pull off the win at home, outdueled by Baker Mayfield. It happens. It's happened 4 out of 5 times this year, but looks great doing so. 4 touchdown passes. Huge performance, but only 31% owned. So would you take Sam Darnold over 39% owned Jackson Dart, New York Giants?
Yes, I would. And it comes down to consistency. I think Darnold's going to provide you a floor that is much more predictable than something like that Jackson Dart would provide. We saw it yesterday. He came out, guns a-blazing, looked like he was going to have a great game, and then the bottom just fell out for him. So, I mean, if you want to ride the wave with Dart, be my guest, but there could be games where this kid's putting up single-digit fantasy points between the turnovers and negative rushing yards and the like that comes with being an unexperienced rookie quarterback. I'll take the consistency of Darnold at this case.
Yeah, the floor for Darnold much higher. The one thing that Dart does have on his side is the run game. 9 designed runs in 2 games, 8 scrambles. So he's going to be moving a lot, especially behind that Giants offensive line where you have a couple good tackles and everything else is a little bit iffy. That said, the designed runs didn't really work. They got dialed way back after that week 4 win over the Chargers. Brian Daboll knows he can't keep spamming that play. Defenses are catching wise to it. And the receiving core isn't really there. Malik Neighbors is gone. Darius Slayton, a great supporting cast member, but he's shown time and time again he's not going to be that wide receiver 1 type.
No.
I don't see it happening for Jackson Dart this year. Doesn't mean he can't be a good quarterback. Just means that he's probably not going to be able to give you 20-plus points on a weekly basis the way Sam Darnold can. Next man up, the man getting outplayed by Mac by God Jones in the West Coast in Santa Clara. Brock Purdy. Do you want Brock Purdy on your roster? Do you want Sam Darnold?
Tough decision, but I think I'm going to stick with Darnold here again, only because of the manner of the turf toe. I mean, that's always a nagging injury. Even if Purdy's back, there's no guarantee that he's going to be 100% throughout the season. This is something that can linger. I mean, on top of the fact that you got San Francisco's wide receiver room's pretty decimated in its own right. I'll stick with the consistent targets of Jackson Smith and Jigba. We got a little Torrey Horton in there, a little Cooper Kupp. And you still got the backs. You can still distribute to either back. So let's go with Seattle here and Sam Darnold.
Yeah, the Niners have no reason to rush Brock Purdy back in the lineup the way Mac Jones is playing right now. The supporting cast is not there. The blocking has been but we've seen that in Christian McCaffrey's run game. They're not creating a lot of space for those downfield throws, even if a guy like Mac Jones is still able to operate and crush the Rams. For reasons I don't really comprehend, Josh. I don't understand how that happened, why that happened. I saw enough Mac Jones in the first 3 years of the Patriots to realize that should not be a thing, what happened last Thursday night. And yet here we are. But the one thing Brock Purdy didn't do early on, he's been doing this year, he's taken a lot of negative plays, sacks, turnovers. Darnold isn't going to be that guy. He's got escapability, even though he's not really running for any yards. He's able to create space and keep the ball moving downfield. So again, I want that stable floor of Sam Darnold over the perhaps not quite dizzying heights of a Brock Purdy breakthrough game. Next man up, 80+% owned, Caleb Williams, Chicago Bears. Do you want the 2024 first overall draft pick, or do you want the 2019 third overall draft pick, Sam Darnold?
This one's tough for me. Darnold's safer, but I think Williams provides you a higher ceiling, and it's a Ben Johnson run offense. So between the fact that he uses his legs a little bit, and the fact that we've got Ben Johnson in our back pocket, I'm surprisingly going to roll with Caleb here. I think the bye is also going to help them out. I think things were trending in the right direction, but we might see Caleb Williams come on really strong out of this bye. So I'll roll with Williams here.
No, I agree with you on this one. Just because we have seen Ben Johnson kind of step in and mold him a little bit this season. He's cut back on the amount of scrambles, had him sit in the pocket a little bit longer, had him move behind the line of scrimmage and look downfield rather than taking off. So he's kind of tamping down the bad habits that developed a little bit in 2024. But he's also designing more go-to run plays for his quarterback, in part because his running back is DeAndre Swift, and every handoff you give to DeAndre Swift, God kills a swan somewhere. So this is a player who has a huge upside, and he's playing for a head coach who knows what to do with him. He's got a great receiving core around him, 2 potential impact tight ends along with DJ Moore, along with Rome Odunze, along with Luther Burden III. So I want that upside of Caleb Williams, and he's got a stable floor too, because he can run, pick you up some yards on the ground, maybe give you 6-7 points without even having to throw the ball.
Right.
Finally, let's end the latter segment with a rising tight end. We talked about Jackson Dart. Who's the biggest beneficiary of Jackson Dart's rise? This tight end, Theo Johnson, only 6% owned, but 7 targets, 6 catches, only 33 yards, but a pair of touchdowns in week 5. Yash, let's get started at the bottom. Sure. 27% owned, Chig Okonkwo, Tennessee Titans. Do you want Theo Johnson? Do you want Chig Okonkwo?
Ooh. All right. Well, Chig actually looked really good yesterday in their victory against Arizona, and he was a go-to guy. But I think Johnson's more of that the stereotypical type of tight end that you look for. He's getting those targets in the red zone, which is super important. And it looks like Jackson Dart is going to lean on him, especially with no Malik Neighbors. So although Okonkwo, he looks good and he's provided some production in the past, I'm going to roll with Johnson here in the upside.
I mean, 2 very similar situations. You have young-ish tight ends working with rookie quarterbacks. Cam Ward is going to want to push the ball downfield because, honestly, the Cardinals let him do it all day long. Well, not all day long. Later on, after they were busy falling apart. Doesn't matter. One of the things that I like about Okonkwo is that he has that superior run after catch. He only has 1 game this season in which his average target came more than 6 yards downfield, and that was 6.1. But his average catch distance this year has gone for 10.1 yards. So this is a guy who's able to create space and able to make guys miss a little bit downfield. Mm-hmm. I think I want the run after catch ability of an Okonkwo and the more gunsling stability of a Cam Ward versus the uneven play of Jackson Dart and the red zone dependency of a Theo Johnson. Next man up, another young tight end playing with a formerly highly drafted quarterback, Brenton Strange, Jacksonville Jaguars. Do you want Theo Johnson or Brenton Strange on your roster?
I'll take Brenton Strange here. Although the Jaguars have not been explosive on the offensive side of the ball this year, they still are moving the ball downfield. They're still winning games, and Brenton Strange has been a part of that. I don't think they're relying on Travis Hunter as much as people initially thought they were going to. So with Brian Thomas Jr. struggling a little bit, it's good to get the big-bodied Strange involved, and he's reliable. So I'd rather rely on him, quite honestly. He's just going to give you the same 5-6 catches on a regular basis, and like we said, it's better than riding that the elevator. I'm going to
go ahead and agree with you there. This is a guy who's had 7 targets each of his last 2 games, and he's getting a ton of space underneath. So Liam Cohen's doing a great job clearing out his wideouts and letting Strange catch the ball and move with it. His yards after catch this season haven't been great, but he was an above average runner with the ball in his hands in 2024. So that's going to come back to him. Picture a more athletic K-Dot, and I think that's what you're looking at in Jacksonville. And that's a guy who can really do some work for you, or at the very least, kind of guarantee you 8 points per game, which isn't great, but for a tight end, you're okay with that.
Absolutely.
Finally, this guy a little bit more owned than I expected. You're paying for name value. 77% owned. Zach Ertz, Washington Commanders. Do you want Theo Johnson? You want old man Ertz?
I'll take old man Ertz here. Old man,
Okay.
and reason being, old man Ertz was Jaden Daniels' favorite target all throughout the preseason this year when he didn't have the luxury of having his boy Terry McLaurin over there. So,
Yeah.
and we saw it the first 2 weeks before Daniels was hurt. Ertz was heavily involved, and I think that's going to continue moving forward. There really is no standout receiver right now, especially with McLaurin hurt. You do have Deebo Samuel. He's been great, but you need somebody else. And it seems like the safety valve for Jaden Daniels is going to be Zach Ertz. I'll take that.
You know what? I actually want Johnson this one. Ertz is starting to look like he's finally slowing down. He's playing like a 34-year-old out there. Only one target in week 5. That's after Daniels returned. And for a team that need to battle back from an early deficit against the Chargers, the floor has kind of dropped out for him. And he's still a useful mid-range target. He's getting his passes a lot further downfield than any of the other 3 guys that we mentioned in this segment. But at the same time, the production hasn't quite been there. And you have to wonder, has Father Time finally caught up to him?
Okay.
All right. Now to smash the stash. We look at guys who are 10% owned and below and pick out the guys we want hanging out at the bottom of our roster. Yaj, who is your stash pick heading into week 6?
All right. My stash is somebody I actually grabbed in leagues where I had to back up my loss of Brock Bowers. That would be Mason Taylor of the New York Jets. Funny enough, this was brought up to me preseason when we were discussing the Jets and who could possibly step up. And one of my colleagues had mentioned Mason Taylor simply because there's nobody else that can catch the ball with the Jets. Yeah. And proved it last week. 12 targets, 9 catches. He's getting more and more involved every week. It doesn't matter which quarterback is playing, whether it be Tyrod Taylor or Justin Fields. He's getting his looks. And again, you could have had him for free last week. You could still probably get him for a low amount of fab. I don't think too many people are chasing a tight end at this point. So that's my guy for you, Mason Taylor. Take a look at him.
I'm going to go back to a guy we brought up in this section before, Torrey Horton of the Seattle Seahawks, down to about 3% owned, but 3 touchdowns in his last 4 games. Sam Darnold scrambling. Horton knew what to do. He got on the same page with them, had a big 21-yard touchdown in week 5. He's earning that trust for the league's most efficient quarterback right now. That's a big deal. And more importantly, the guy ahead of him on the depth chart, Jackson Smith-Njigba, he's awesome, but he can't do it all himself. Cooper Kupp's ahead of him on the depth chart as well. He's 32 years old. The last time he played more than 12 games in a season, Yaj, 2021. He's a guy you want to stash there in case or possibly when Cooper Kupp goes down. If that happens, all of a sudden he goes from 4 targets game to 8 or 9, and boom, Torrey Horton is all of a sudden an 80, 90, 100-yard threat. Time now for our final section of the week, the trade high section, where we talk about the guys who are overperforming expectations and whether or not you should cut bait on them in order to bring in maybe a more established star who's falling a little bit short of expectations. This week's trade high candidate, tight end Kyle Pitts, Atlanta Falcons. We didn't see him last week, but so far this year, very steady, a trusted piece of the offense. So, Yaj, if you have Kyle Pitts, are you trading high going into week 6?
I think I'm going to hold. If he was drafted as my tight end, I don't see a reason to move on from him. Darnell Mooney has not really been the number 2 option in that offense like people thought, like he was last year. Pitts is a very athletic kid. He's still young, too. I mean, I know he's been playing in the league for 4 years, but I think he was drafted when he was 21 years old. So he's relatively young for NFL years. I'm sorry. But either way,
the NHL too. Let's admit it.
Hey, it is what it is. He's young for no matter what league he's playing in. But regardless, I think he has established himself as somebody that Michael Penix looks to, especially when he's scrambling or he's in trouble. So I don't see a reason to move on from him. I really think he's kind of settling into his own this year for the first time in a long time. I think he looks more like that kid that we saw as a rookie who had a lot of promise.
Yeah, you got to think that his knee, the cartilage issue that he had, the meniscus, is finally not bothering as much. But he's also not being used the same way he was early on. He's not that field stretcher anymore. He's turned into more of a traditional inline tight end, except without the blocking. So I guess more accurately, he's more like a big slot target right now. And you know what? That's what Michael Penix needs. He's a short route runner and a safety valve for a quarterback who needs them and who can occasionally go out and make those deep outs that Penix is so good at throwing. So I say stay the course on Kyle Pitts. This is a guy who's going to get you 4 to 5 catches per game. Maybe he's only going to get you those 50 yards, or maybe he's going to blow up and get you those red zone targets because, like you said, Darnell Mooney not quite there right now. Drake London a little bit up and down. This is a team that needs someone reliable, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but Kyle Pitts has turned out to be that reliable target. Kyle Pitts,
right?
Kyle Pitts is reliable.
Do yourself a favor. Flip your other. If you have 2 tight ends, flip the other one. Most likely, Kyle Pitts was your second tight end taken anyway. Flip the guy with the name recognition. Get yourself a nice running back or a receiver and enjoy Kyle Pitts. That's
right. Enjoy Kyle Pitts. That's the words of wisdom we will leave you with. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you got all the way to the end. We'll see you out there.
Appreciate it. See you.